Chernobyl and Pripyat, the past and present of a nuclear disaster. On April 26, 1986, the world witnessed one of the greatest nuclear disasters in history. Chernobyl, a seemingly safe facility in the Soviet Union, became the scene of a tragedy that deeply shook confidence in nuclear technology. On that day, reactor number 4 exploded, releasing a massive amount of radiation into the atmosphere and forcing the hasty evacuation of Pripyat, a nearby city that had symbolized Soviet progress. This video invites you to delve into this story of destruction and resilience. We'll explore the events that led up to the disaster, the devastating impact it had, and ultimately discover how Chernobyl and Pripyat have been transformed over time. Today, these places frozen in time tell us not only about the risks of our own ambition, but also about nature's incredible ability to bounce back. On the night of April 26, 1986, engineers at Chernobyl's reactor number 4 were conducting a safety test to assess the system's stability in the event of an electrical failure. However, a combination of human error and reactor design errors resulted in a runaway nuclear reaction. At 1:23 a.m., an explosion destroyed the reactor building, releasing highly radioactive materials into the atmosphere. The explosion was just the beginning of the disaster. While firefighters tried to contain the fire with conventional equipment, many of them were unaware of the risks of intense exposure to radiation. In the hours and days that followed, it became clear that this tragedy was far beyond anything humanity had ever faced. Pripyat, located just 3 kilometers from the plant, was a vibrant city, home to 50,000 people, many of them workers and their families. Within 36 hours of the accident, the population was hastily evacuated under the promise of a soon return. What was left behind was a ghost town, with abandoned toys, set tables, and a silence that echoed the loss. The first responders to the disaster, known as liquidators, played heroic roles. Firefighters, soldiers, and plant workers faced extreme levels of radiation, often without the necessary protective equipment. Their immediate actions helped prevent the disaster from spreading further, but at the cost of their own lives. Furthermore, the consequences of the accident spread far beyond Ukraine. Radiation crossed borders, affecting millions of people across Europe. In the long term, hundreds of thousands suffered from illnesses related to exposure, including cancers and chronic health problems. The Chernobyl disaster sent a clear message to the world: nuclear power, while powerful, is incredibly dangerous when mismanaged. Governments and international organizations were forced to re-evaluate nuclear safety protocols. The tragedy prompted significant changes in industry regulations and, in many countries, sparked intense debate about the viability of nuclear power. Chernobyl also highlighted the need for global cooperation in the face of environmental disasters. Monitoring programs, international assistance, and ongoing scientific efforts have helped mitigate some of the consequences. After the disaster, an exclusion zone was created around the plant, covering 30 kilometers. Within this zone, the city of Pripyat has remained virtually untouched since the evacuation. Its streets, buildings, and objects tell the story of a moment frozen in time. Highlights include the famous amusement park, with its now rusty Ferris wheel, never officially used. Schools, hospitals, and apartments are covered in dust and vegetation, conveying an atmosphere of melancholy and mystery. These places function as time capsules, providing a unique glimpse into Soviet life in the 1980s. The Chernobyl plant itself has also changed dramatically. After the accident, a concrete sarcophagus was quickly constructed to contain the radioactive materials. Decades later, in 2016, a more advanced structure called the new safe confinement was installed, enclosing the damaged reactor site for greater protection. Interestingly, while humans avoid the exclusion zone, nature thrives. After decades without human presence, the area has become a haven for wildlife. Species such as wolves, moose, bears, and rare birds now live in an environment largely untouched by humanity. Researchers have used the area as a laboratory to study the effects of radiation on ecosystems. While the radioactivity has caused mutations in some species, many have adapted surprisingly well. For scientists, this serves as a powerful example of the resilience of ecosystems, even in adverse conditions. Today, Chernobyl and Pripyat have become destinations for a unique type of tourism. Curious visitors from all over the world travel to witness the impact of one of the worst disasters in history. Specialized guides lead controlled tours, ensuring the safety of tourists as they explore iconic sites such as the Pripyat Ferris wheel and the interiors of abandoned buildings. Furthermore, efforts have been made to preserve these sites as historical memorials. By keeping these areas accessible, international organizations help to ensure that the history of Chernobyl remains relevant in discussions about liability and safety. Chernobyl remains a warning to humanity. The disaster highlighted the failures of systems, both technological and human, and reminded us of the harsh consequences of negligence. It also taught us about the importance of learning from mistakes and prioritizing safety over haste or carelessness. While the tragedy was devastating, it also revealed a spirit of resilience. From the sacrifices made by first responders to the way authorities now handle nuclear safety, Chernobyl has become a symbol of resilience amid chaos. Chernobyl's cultural impact is also undeniable. Books, documentaries, and the famous HBO miniseries have brought the story back to global attention, reaffirming the importance of telling this story to new generations. Today, the exclusion zone remains an important site for scientific research and historical reflection. Scholars investigate the long-term effects of radiation on ecosystems and consider ways to utilize the space for future innovation. Chernobyl and Pripyat are not just places of tragedy, they are also symbols of the human capacity to face our failures, learn and, above all, persevere. Chernobyl and Pripyat tell a story that goes beyond a nuclear disaster. They remind us of our responsibility as a society, of our mistakes, but also of our capacity to learn and adapt. Today, these sites are much more than ruins. They are historical and natural landmarks that show the impact of human ambition and the strength of nature that, even when devastated, finds ways to rise again. As we revisit the past and reflect on the present, Chernobyl inspires us to seek a more conscious and safe future. The story of Chernobyl is not just about what went wrong, but about what we can still do right.